7 Tuesday, brought to you by KFC.
Crispy barbecue zinger from KFC. Available for a limited time. KFC, it's finger-licking good.
Reduxin Triple Action. Try its fresh orange flavor with no sugar. Delivers strong immune support with vitamin C, D, and zinc. Strengthen your defenses against viruses every day with Reduxin Triple Action. Reduxin. More than vitamin C, it's from Bayer.
Celebrating
for the first lead story here on CVM TV.
1 year of bold reporting.
And of course we look at solutions, but the fact is
1 year of fearless investigations.
It's a very important argument and it's a very important issue.
1 year of asking the tough questions.
16 is not enough. Is 13 enough?
Lead Story with George Davis is celebrating 1 year of delivering the truth day after day. And we are just getting started.
Let's start the show.
Enjoy the things that matter. Family, friends, and the keys to your home.
The time by NHT is
8 o'clock.
This is a Child Month tip from CVM Television. You should never be too busy for your children. They are people too. Find the time to give them your undivided attention. This will make them understand how precious they are and that they matter. That was a Child Month tip from CVM Television.
Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Easter vibes may be fading, but let's take a colorful look back at the paint and play fun.
Today is beautiful. I actually wanted her to do something Easter, so I'm glad she was able to get out and do this. She loves painting, so she loves the whole entire event.
So this is our third staging, and as I said, this is the first time we're doing an outside event, and thanks to the aesthetics of the artisan village, everything looks so nice and wonderful, and we're just happy that the parents and the children loved it.
Bones, painting, and an Easter egg hunt. It's a lot of fun.
I like it because it's what I like to do. I love to draw and stuff like that, so it's fun, and I love kids also, so it's all come together and I really enjoy it. As you can see, the support was great. The parents and children loved it, and I expected nothing less because, of course, it's a family bonding event, and I'm sure every parent and every family endorses what Play It and Play is about, and it's about building family bonds. It's about everybody just coming and having a bonding experience.
When I was sick, the doctors and nurses here at Bustamante Hospital took care of me. They made me feel safe and gave me hope. But sometimes they need a little help too. That's why so many people run, walk and shine to help kids like me.
One of the major challenges the Bustamante Hospital for Children faces is that we have outgrown our physical infrastructure. and we are in need of additional medical equipment.
Every step you take helps make our hospital better, new equipment, better care, and more smiles.
Hope begins with care, and care starts with all of us. That's why we're proud to support the Bustamante Hospital for Children through this year's Shine 5K. Your participation will help us raise critical funds needed to support emergency pediatric care.
Thank you for running for me and for all of us.
There continues to be ill feeling among the Jamaica Teachers Association's members about the Jamaica Teaching Council bill, sufficient for us to devote another program to seeking to explain what the contentious issues are as we look at how we move forward from what appears to be an impasse as the government looks to take the bill over the last part of the legislative hurdle. You've heard of the Jamaican Teaching Council itself. You've heard the JTA say, look, what is in the bill is not reflective of what our recommendations are. This evening, we've brought together the head of the Jamaica Teaching Council. We've brought a representative of the Jamaica Teachers Association who has that institutional knowledge of the advocacy on this subject to see if indeed there is a broad gap between the JTA and the Jamaica Teaching Council insofar as what the provisions of the bill are and how they affect the lot of teachers in the profession. It's an important issue. We believe that you need to understand it, and this evening we've gone for another explainer episode with two representatives of the groups who really matter in all of this. This is Lead Story Prime here on CVM TV. My name is George. Let's start the show. Welcome back to Lead Story Prime here on CVM TV. Okay, so as I said in the opening, it is really important that we take time to understand what is happening here where this important piece of legislation is concerned, especially because it has taken so long to get to this point. There have been numerous meetings. There have been meetings of the Joint Select Committee. There have been other meetings around those meetings of the Joint Select Committee. Various stakeholder groups have been asked to opine, to make submissions on what ought to be in the bill, and for something that will be binding for the rest of the time that Jamaica exists, and for it to be so important, it is crucial to understand what is in it. Now, you've heard members of the Jamaica Teacher Association say that, look, this thing is setting out to be punitive. It is not in the best professional interests of teachers. What we want to see in it, not enough of that is in it, despite our advocacy over time, because the JT, of course, bridled at the suggestion that they have only just come to criticizing the bill when it is at the last hurdle. They've said no. And the recent press conference hosted by the JTA President, Dr. Mark Smith, he came with what he says were, our receipts of the JTA's advocacy over time, including the suggestions made by his predecessors in the capacity as president about what the teachers lobby wants in that bill. The Jamaica Teaching Council, there are problems that JTA has with that organization in terms of the representation of teachers. We're going to get into all of that. But insofar as the bill is concerned, one of the things we've heard teachers say, current professionals and those who've retired, is that, look, the punitive aspect of it is really harsh on the teachers, and a lot of thought has not gone into this. So we pulled that section out of the proposed legislation just to examine what it says according to the letter. So here we go. In terms of that punitive aspect, the restriction on teaching, Part 4, Section 24 of the Bill 1, A person shall not practice as a teacher unless they are granted a license to teach, or that person has been granted an authorization to teach. Two different things. A license to teach and an authorization to teach. Two different things. It says also, where the council is satisfied that a person is practicing in contravention, the council shall, by notice, in writing, direct that individual to apply for the license or authorization to teach, as the case may be, within 21 days of receiving such notification that you are teaching in contravention of the act. Then, where a person under subsection 2 does not comply with that direction within the time specified, the council shall, in writing, give the person another 21 working days. So that's 42 working days in which to make an application for the license or authorization to teach. So it's not find out that you are teaching in contravention, boom, apply permanent punitive measures. That's not so. That's not what the legislation is setting out. It's giving you at least 42 days to get yourself in order. And where a person under subsection 3 does not comply, the council shall, by notice, in writing, direct the person to forthwith cease to practice as a teacher. Then, in terms of the notice under subsection 4 being served on the employer, and upon receipt of said notice, the employer shall, whomever employs that teacher, ensure that the individual who is the subject of the notice, i.e. the teacher, cease to practice as a teacher until that teacher produces evidence that he or she does hold a license or does have the authorization to teach. And then a person who does not comply with that direction, and continues to teach, shall be liable upon conviction to a fine not exceeding $500,000, $500,000. And this is something that seems to rankle with the JTA. They're saying that the fine is way too heavy. It is disproportionate, and they're saying that teachers can't afford that. And they compare the situation to other professional groups where they're saying that the fine for infractions is nowhere as high as that which is proposed to be levied on members of the teaching profession. I had the Minister of Education with me here on Lead Story some days ago, and this is what she said about that contentious aspect of the JTC bill.
Government, ministers, it had senators, it had MPs, it was a broad group of people looking at it, and then they had a Joint Select Committee report. And the Joint Select Committee report was the bill. And so it's quite unfortunate that we'd get to this point where we pass the bill in a bipartisan manner in the Senate, and then we are now faced with these questions. Well, from last week, I've been asking the JTA to please give me the list of their concerns. I'm still waiting for that letter. They have not sent me anything. I think they prefer to do press conferences and so on than to actually send through what their official issues are with the bill, because I would love to know what those are, given the process it's gone through. And I think it's really a very strong governance process. You'd think that you would be able to get consensus. But I am encouraged by the fact that the churches, for example, that are a key stakeholder, they're supportive of the bill. And we've also heard the Parent Teachers Association very supportive of the same bill. And the JTA is not as supportive of the bill. And I believe that a part of that could have been them not necessarily being in touch with the teachers as much as they should have to explain what was happening, or even being in touch with the process, because there are 45 Joint Select Committees. All of them are aired on TV live or online. So all of them are there. And if you didn't miss it, you can go and watch it. So after the JTA would have presented, the committee would have gone through their representation. And what happens in a Joint Select Committee, and it's good for Jamaica to know how this works, there's a matrix that's done. And in that matrix, you kind of put all of what your stakeholders have said. And then you talk about it, and you say, what do we think about this? Do we agree with this? Do we not agree with that? And so that process is also televised. So as you're going through, if you're watching it, you actually know where the bill is going. So my question is, where was the JTA during those 45 meetings? So they came and they presented, but then it seems like they never watched one more meeting. Because if you were watching, you would have known what was in the bill, because that's all that the Joint Select Committee was discussing. And as I said, televised, live, every single one. This is great governance.
The Education Minister there presenting a perspective that appears to suggest that the JTA fell asleep at the wheel and only woke after the bill drove into the depot. The boss of the bill drove into the depot and was ready to change hands. It just suddenly had objections to raise. After the break, we'll hear a little bit from what the opposition spokesman on education said, having a totally different perspective to the minister, and then I'll invite my guests to contribute. This is Lead Story Prime here, CVM TV.
With love, when hope meets heart, a new journey begins.
Welcome home, David.
Welcome, David. Make it your own.
Family is built on moments shared.
Go, David, yes!
Every smile and every shared moment connects us with a brighter future. Here, you're not just welcomed, you're family. Foster hope, foster love, foster a child today. Contact the CPFSA for more information.
Every day starts with care. Care that's always close. Supermed Family of Pharmacies is where you go for everything you need. From your morning routine to life's biggest moments. Supermed Family of Pharmacies is always by your side. Whether it's prescriptions or household essentials, trust the care that's close to home. Super happy, super healthy, Supermed.
We're still talking about the Jamaica Teaching Council bill. It is one step away from being presented to the Governor General for his signature and then gazetting, and it will become law. But the Jamaica Teachers Association say not so fast, which really seems difficult to accept, given that we've been here 21 years, 6 ministers of education later, and we still don't have this thing finalized and operational as part of the legal architecture of this land. You heard from the Education Minister before the break, Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon, speaking from her perspective about what she sees as a highly inclusive process, which has included over 45 meetings of a joint select committee and deliberations among stakeholders, consideration of what stakeholders believe ought to be in the bill, to this point now where the bill is just one step away from being signed by the Governor General. The opposition spokesman on education, Senator Damian Crawford, has a totally different view. He seems to believe that the bill was taken from somewhere else and just brought in almost complete form, and then the deliberations around it did not really take into consideration what some of the key stakeholders, primary among which is the Jamaica Teachers Association, have to say about the legislation. So I asked him, I said, listen, wasn't this thing developed based on the submissions of these stakeholders? He says, well, no, not really. The bill came and the stakeholders were consulted to say, well, we consulted them, and then the government and the select committee, which is dominated by government members, and he made the point about that, went forward to push this thing to the point where it is almost law, as if to suggest, the opposition spokesman did, that in real terms it was just an exercise to say we did it rather than an exercise of inclusivity. Here is what he said when he spoke to me about the JTC bill. These provisions are the product of submissions by stakeholder groups and acceptance by the Joint Select Committee.
No.
No.
I'm saying to you that a bill was prepared and put before the Joint Select Committee. So the Joint Select Committee is reviewing a previously prepared bill.
So you're saying, hold on, very important point here. I want to get this clear. You are saying that it is not a case where the stakeholders come and submit
with
this
a green field. No.
And the stakeholder, the GSC says, yes, we'll take that.
No, there's not a green field. You have this proposed bill that you're putting forward, and you put it in front of this Joint Select to review this proposed bill. It's not a green field to say, all right, we're starting a JTC, guys, come and tell me what you'd want in it. And then in reviewing that first proposal of the bill, people will come and say, well, I think this, for example, the churches say we want more representation on what you recommend. We should have some more based on our number of schools that we own. Or the PTA may say, why we don't have a PTA member on the body. So this is something that is formulated. If you go back through your chronological order, it stated that it went for drafting earlier than it went to the joint review.
But hold on. If what you say is true and it's a greenfield scenario,
no, it's not a greenfield.
It is not a greenfield scenario where the bill was presented and the committee is just reviewing it. It's not stakeholder input that informed what people are reviewing. How is it then that the JTA came to the press conference on Monday with a long list of submissions that had been made to inform the bill from several previous JTA presidents?
So the JTA presidents came to say, yo, bro, listen, we see this thing before the Joint Select Committee, and we have problems with A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Right.
So in your review, take out, put in, do these things. We would prefer a bill that reflects this. Now, when the review ends, none of what they said is in it. So you go there and you see a man with some green paint and you say, listen, we want a little bit of blue. And he say, all right, I'll think about it. And then when it comes to total green, so you're saying no blue is in it. So what they're saying is in the review, in their recommendations, having seen Bill 1, ground zero bill, none of their are not sufficient.
All right. I think we've done enough with the background to bring you up to speed with where we are. And I'm sure my guests are itching to go. Dr. Clayton Hall is Deputy General Secretary of the Jamaica Teachers Association. He's also, I'm preemptive. He says a doctorate is in the works. We work with Clayton for now. He's an honorable gentleman. Good evening, sir. And the lady on the panel is Dr. Winsome Gordon. She is the head of the Jamaica Teaching Council, that JTC. Thank you this evening. Thank you for coming here. You can touch and shake my hand. Clayton is too far away. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right. Dr. Gordon, it was necessary to set context, not just for yourself, but because you know these issues, but for the viewers, because you have to anticipate as a journalist that someone is seeing the issue for the first time. Agreed. So you don't want to leave anybody in behind an information screen. You want to bring everybody forward so they know what's happening. With all of that has been said, Dr. Gordon, the Jamaica Teachers Association say their main gripe is that most of what they've recommended to be included in the bill has been ignored. Not even that, it goes stronger than that. The overwhelming majority of what they say should be in it, they say was left on the cutting room floor, and so they cannot in good conscience accept what is in the bill at this time. Are they on to something?
No. The Jamaica Teaching Council started on the 15th of September, 2008. I called the Jamaica Teachers Association to join me on the 16th of September 2008. Together, we revised the framework that was set up, that came out of an early research commissioned by Honorable P.J. Patterson. That group of researchers, they were excellent, and they produced a framework. This was in 2004. We were starting in 2008, so we'd have to revise the framework. The JTA and myself, we are not yet staffed, revised that framework.
And that was in your role as Senior Director of the Jamaica Teaching Council?
Yes. And we presented together to the then Minister of Education, who listened to us and all that we had done with the framework. And where he was satisfied, he said, yes, very good. And where was not satisfied, he said, both of you go back and revise the framework and bring it to me. Since then, we set up a technical working group.
Yes.
That's included our early childhood educators, universities, of course the JTA, and we worked together until we found a framework, and teachers.
Yes.
We came up with a document that was reasonably acceptable. Then we set up an advisory body now, and this was far more formal. Had chairman of board, president of the Parent Teachers Association, 6 members of the JTA, the private sector. Some were lawyers, some of the chairmen of the boards were lawyers, the colleges of education. So we had a good body chaired by Reverend Maitland. We continued to work on the framework and to have discussions. In between, we had consultations, town hall meetings, discussions. We had a presentation to the JTA at the JTA office in their conference room. And the years passed as time passed. And in 2015, 2 lawyers from the advisory body visited the JTA, myself and of course the senior members of JTA, and we had a discussion line by line on the draft bill. Another minister, of course, was in place at the time, and he said to the JTA, no, only 2 of the 9 areas that you have asked us to change, that we cannot change.
You gave them 7?
Yes.
7 of the 9?
He gave them 7.
But you couldn't change 2 of the 9?
No. One was to name JTA as the organization representing teachers in the bill. We said that would be unfair to the community because somebody else may want to start another association. And the other was to make the JTA a member of the quorum, stimulate that a meeting cannot be held without the presence of the JTA. We all agreed then that if with 6 members of the JTA on the board, then they must make an effort to be present at all meetings. Those were the only 2 areas to which we said no. On the matter of the fines, the discussion came out of all the presentations that were made to the Joint Select Committee. The fine is clear. We have to trust the judiciary. It says up to.
Yes.
That is, if a teacher is in trouble and the teacher for some reason needed 44 days rather than the 42 days to get a license, to be a licensed teacher, then the teacher can take the matter to the courts. And the judge may very well say, no, teacher, you are wrong and we'll charge you $40. Or you're right and we'll charge you no money. So when we talk about maximum, we have not put a minimum.
Yes.
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 So in all fairness to the courts, which we should trust, they're ours, they would make a decision based on the situation.
Yes.
The JTA has referred to the bill as being punitive.
Yes.
Rather than being punitive, I think the bill, the legislation, is a gift of the government. And when I say government, I'm talking about both
successive
sides
administrations.
Of the House. We are in a different situation, a different era from when the bill was started. We are in the 5th industrial revolution. And the creators of the AIs, they are determined to replace teachers.
Hear you on that. Let me take the break right here, Dr. Gordon. And when we come back, we'll hear from Clayton Hall from the JTA. He'll have the right of response. This is CVM TV, Lead Story Prime. Dr. Gordon says at every step of the way, the JTA has been very close to the process, informing the process, seeding what is now growing as this JTC bill. So she says on that basis, she can't accept any argument that the bill is being rushed through and that the JTA's concerns and recommendations have not been given due consideration. She says, au contraire, yeah? their concerns, their recommendations have been largely taken on board, and those recommendations have gone significantly into informing and laying out the structure of what exists today as the JTC bill. That's our argument. The JTA will respond after the break.
Savings Streams promotion and save monthly for a chance to win an all expenses paid trip to Peru. Enter now. The time by JN Bank Savings Streams promotion is
8:30. In a world where innovation meets tradition, agriculture is evolving like never before. From the latest sustainable farming technologies to age-old practices passed down through generation, agriculture is
precious to me.
I love the animals. I don't mind getting my hands dirty. I love working.
Join us right here on CVM TV every Sunday during news at 7 as we explore the people, the science, and the breakthroughs that are shaping the way we grow, eat, and live. You don't want to miss it. This is Farming Forward.
The JT is being represented this evening by Clayton Hall. He's the Deputy General Secretary and, of course, a man who has led the organization. He's heard all of what Dr. Gordon has said. He knows the context like the back of his hand. So I ask him this evening, why should Jamaica believe the JTA when it says the bill is punitive, the bill is not fit for purpose, the bill is not reflective of the majority of the concerns as raised by those in the teaching profession?
Thank you. Thank you much, Dr. Gordon. Thank you. I want to start off with pointing to the UNESCO reports as well as the United Nations high-level declaration or high-level panel on education, where they made it very, very clear that agency for the teacher was an integral part of making education and teaching more professional. I want to categorically reject the statements put forward by Dr. Gordon that our concerns were taken into account, because we have a document produced in 2014 and we have another produced in 2022. And both those documents say almost identically the very same things, because they are talking about specific items in the bill that have remained between 2014 and 2022, and we still see them there. Just for point in question, we have put forward a concern regarding the composition of the board of the Teaching Council. And the latest iteration of the bill is actually worse than the former. Firstly, the minister in the latest iteration has the opportunity to select the chairman and the vice chairman of the board. We see that nowhere in no other professional organization, in fact, no other board on the island operates like that. The protocol that is used for boards is that the minister selects the chairman, and the committee, when the board meets, it elects the vice chairman. In this iteration, the minister selects both the chair and the vice chair. This was really not in the original. Also, in the original iteration of the bill, the JTA had 5 representatives on a board of about 24. We argued that the professional organization, as is the case with the nursing council, the medical council, the legal council, the group representing those individuals ought to be named. Even if you do not name by name, then they must be referred. So the reference to the JTA as the organization representing the majority of teachers is the only adjustment we have seen in the bill that is favorable. In fact, when you consider the numbers, it became worse. The board moved to 31. And the JTA got 6. It meant that we have now gotten a lower percentage of the population of the council. It is hard to believe that other councils representing nurses, The Nursing Council, for example, 15 members. 12 of them are named by unions or groups representing nurses. The Medical Council, the Legal Council, all of those are, I am asking, what nuance is there with education? In fact, I would go further. What crimes did teachers commit so that they can be in the ascendancy on a council representing them? The history has taught us that the last time we had taxation without representation was prior to the American Revolution. You may wonder why I made the mention of taxation. The council, based on the requirement, is now being set up as a huge bureaucracy. The council will have to do appraisals. It will have to do professional development. It will take on so many roles currently in the remit of the Ministry of Education. Yet this council will not be stipended by the Ministry of Education. It will not be funded through the public coffers. It therefore means that there must be a source for these funding. And we are expecting that the fees, and when I say fees here, I am not talking about fines. I'm talking about fees. Fees for professional development, fees for licensing. We are saying professional development is an activity that teachers do recurrently. Last week we had many. The education conference just gone is an annual conference. Ellen Still's professional development and many others. We are also saying that traditional teacher training institutions have programs that we could subscribe to for professional development. The challenge we have is that the teaching council will be able to dictate which professional development activities count towards licensing. And in so doing, they could determine the price for these professional development activities, therefore becoming a new tax on the teacher. And we are vehemently opposed to that.
So, you've said a lot there. Clayton Hall is saying, when you lift up the pasta with the fork and look beneath, there's no sauce, contrary to what the Jamaica Teaching Council is saying. You've heard him. He said so many things, Dr. Ward, but let's pick some to address. He says the composition of the JTC, 31 members, and the representation of the teachers as a percentage watered down from the previous iteration, which they had a problem with then, but you make it weaker now. He says also that the fee structure set out suggests that as a body corporate, the Jamaica Teaching Council will be funded not by money from the consolidated fund, but for all intents and purposes will be from the fees and fees levied against teachers for professional development and various things. And he's saying that this is a tax. No matter how you spin it, it is a tax. Respond to those things for me.
Let us start with the proportion of teachers on the board. Originally, the proportion of teachers on the board was 44%. And we agreed with the argument of the JTA that that proportion should be higher. Today, the proportion is 61.29% of teachers on the board.
Where's the additional 17 percentage points from?
Other teachers, because
who are not JTA members?
No. Oh. Because remember, not all teachers are JTA members.
Yes.
So there must be a space for other teachers. Some of them are coming from the independent schools. Some of them are coming from the colleges that train teachers, the University of the West Indies, and teachers who would be nominated, like 3 persons who would be nominated because they are outstanding teachers.
Stick a pin, Dr. Gordon. So Clayton Hall, Dr. Gordon is saying that, look, well, she didn't say disingenuous, but I'm sure a reasonable viewer watching will be saying, you are saying that the representation of JTA members is watered down. She's saying, well, but the representation of teachers broadly is stronger than before. Respond to that.
So I will respond very clearly in pointing out that this way. The Minister of Education, any Minister of Education in the new iteration, has the ability to select 23 members of a 31-member committee. Those persons may be teachers. But I want to point out that the teachers who represent independent schools are usually the owners of these independent schools. and their interest is not aligned to that of the teacher. These persons are entrepreneurs.
Yeah, they're business people.
They're business people. Their interests in this bill will not be aligned to the interest of the teacher.
And that's why you're saying that the representation of JTA members and not necessarily teachers should be strong.
It goes worse than that.
Yes.
I am pointing out that the opportunity for a minister to select 23 of a 31-member board of a professional organization is problematic. The only other groups that have a selection on these boards are the Chancellor of UTEC, probably Chancellor of UWI,
yes,
the President of UTEC,
yes,
and the JTA.
Yes.
All the other groups, it says appearing to the minister to be, appearing to the minister to be. It means, therefore, that the concern we have regarding a board that is skewed along a ministerial power. We live in Jamaica.
Yes.
Political influence is significant,
yes,
and we do not want that in our education.
Dr. Gordon.
It's unfortunate that the bill has been misinterpreted. The minister would not be selecting anybody from the churches or the parent teachers, the private schools, the independent schools. These bodies would have to select their representatives to sit on the board. So I am a little disturbed that the statements in the bill have been misunderstood. It does say what he says, that the minister is the person who will select.
Yes.
But the minister is not going to select anybody. There's no way that the minister is going to tell the churches who they should put on
or the
board.
Independent Schools Association.
Or the independent schools. That is not going to happen. So in terms of the structure of the legislation, we can look at that to make sure it's clear that the minister is not going to do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to hear you on the fees, because Clayton Hall says where professional development is concerned and the need for continuous professional development as a matriculating necessity for the award of a teaching license or authorization to teach. And with the JTC effectively being a body corporate, well, not effectively because that's what the legislation says, it uses that language.
Yes.
That is what is going to fund it, given that there's no evidence of taxpayers' money going into it. And he says the teachers are genuinely concerned that this is taxation without representation, taxation by any other name, but by another name. What say you on that?
We have been operating for 17 years. We have never charged one teacher for professional development. In fact, we have mobilized resources, international resources, to bring to our teachers the best of professionals to train them. We have had the International Society for Technology in Education, which is top form. We have had Hanks University in Finland. We have had the IDB funding experts from different parts of the world. OAS has been a strong partner with the development of the practice of the profession. UNESCO, UNICEF, EU, you know, these are agencies that have been working with us to put our teachers on the cutting edge.
Yes.
And you can see what is happening. Recruiters are coming here for Jamaican teachers because they have so much confidence in the quality of our teachers. They have never paid.
Yes.
The JTC was carved out of the Ministry of Education, a unit, and some members of other units were actually assembled and established at the JTC. We are fully funded by government, and that will stay in place. That's why I say it's a gift to the profession, because all the other professions that have been named with councils, they fund their councils.
Yes.
This body is fully funded by government.
After the break, Clayton, I'll give you the response. I have to take it. This is Lead Story Prime here on CVM TV. I don't know about you. I'm enjoying this. Yeah, much more after this break.
The doctors and nurses here at Bustamante Hospital took care of me.
At Noel Holmes Hospital, we see hope every day.
And the work of STAR is about collaborating at the community level to bring about social and economic transformation.
Together, we can invest in safer and more empowered spaces for every Jamaican to thrive. Join us.
Protecting Jamaica's borders is a key priority for the Jamaica Customs Agency. The JCA will remain vigilant and resolute in effectively fulfilling this mandate. The time brought to you by the Jamaica Customs Agency is
8:45. It's a girls' day on Sunrise. Yendi and Tammy are taking over. We begin with a little blessing in Wednesday service. We're hanging with the kitties of Kingston in Wags, and we'll wrap things up on the couch with Paul Issa. Why Not Wednesday is powered by Flow. You've never seen a sunrise quite like this.
And as we speak about the composition of the Jamaica Teaching Council, instead, in case you're wondering about the bona fides of Dr. Winsome Gordon, she holds a Doctor of Philosophy in Education. She has about 18 years experience working with UNICEF in education. UNESCO, beg your pardon. UNESCO, yep, brilliant, very good. And she has been with the Jamaica Teaching Council, the JTC, since 2008 when she was appointed the Senior Director. She's now the CEO. So she's seen the evolution of this organization over the best part of 17 years, the 17 and 8, 25. There you go, my math is right. So she is very well placed to talk about the issues that she has been charged with managing in her capacity as the Chief Executive. Clayton Hall is a former JTA president, still serving the organization as a Deputy General Secretary. And before the break, Clayton, you were anxious to respond to Dr. Gordon's arguments about the funding of the Jamaica Teaching Council and her point that in its current guise, well, in its proposed guise, it will be a gift to the Jamaican people.
So I just want to point out that the Jamaica Teaching Council, as now exists, is actually an agency of the Ministry of Education. It carries out the roles and functions of the Ministry of Education, and the staff of the Teaching Council are paid by the Ministry of Education. We are very clear that once this law is passed, it becomes a body corporate. Therefore, the payroll that the Ministry of Education now carries for the Teaching Council will cease to exist. There is nothing in the law that says the ministry will, in fact, the law says that. The expectation or the proposal that the Teaching Council has done significant work in professional development and so forth, that is clear. And we accept that. The challenge we have is that when this professional development becomes a prerequisite for your practice, then the fees for these professional developments will be set. At this point, we don't know what those fees are. In fact, the JTA proposed that the fees for relicensing be set as a percentage of our salary.
Yes.
And we see that as very, very fair.
Yes.
Because we do not want arbitrary adjustments in the rights for fee. Can you imagine a situation where there's a hole in the budget and 30,000 paid teachers come up for relicensing? The fee for relicensing could be set by doing a division of the hole in the budget. We want to be clear as to what are the prerequisites for relicensing. How much hours of PD must be done? What are the
professional development?
Professional development. What are the fees that will be aligned to these professional development? Who are the entities? Because we did not expect, and we do not expect, the JTC to reinvent the wheel. We have teacher training institutions, significant, and we have done significant work. The MICO has been around before we were born.
Yes.
The University of the West Indies, UTEC, they are creme de la creme institutions where persons who are trained there can go overseas and practice without itch.
Yes.
What is the challenge with pointing out how many hours will be required for relicensing.
What's that problem? What's the problem with that, Doc?
Oh, it exists. I'm surprised at what Mr. Howell just said, because we have already agreed on the standards of the profession.
Yes.
And we did that in 2011. I had a huge meeting at St. Andrew Technical High School on a Sunday evening that JTA actually said we had no right to do. But anyway, the teachers, 300 teachers came out. And they sat with us. And some parents joined, and policemen and soldiers joined us.
At that meeting at Bumper Hall Road?
At that meeting.
Yes.
And we looked at all the proposals we had for teachers, and they came up with the draft teaching standards. Those standards were printed. The Gleaner printed 35,000 copies so that each teacher could have one copy, and some would have more than one because there were 25,000 teachers at the time. So those teachers got the standards, and those standards have been on our website.
Yes.
And then the appraisal instruments were developed with the teachers. We had groups of teachers sitting together on the 6 guiding principles. A teacher should know the subjects that he teaches. A teacher should know how to teach the subject that he teaches. A teacher, or he or she, a teacher should be able to teach children with differences. And it goes on, a teacher should hone his or her skills. A teacher should ensure that he or she conducts herself or himself.
But the only problem with that, Dr. Gordon, is that if I may look at what Clayton Hall is saying, he's saying that, look, the bill as it exists, you can't pick it up and say, oh, so you need to have 17 hours, 18 hours, 16 hours. He says that is absent.
The standard set it. There are 6 hours, credit hours. 6 credit hours for the subject areas, and 4 credit hours for personal engagement. It's set in the standards, and it's set in the appraisal, and the appraisal will be part of the process for licensing.
Dr. Gordon says you're not reading
already.
Respond.
So in fact, we have read them all.
Yes.
The issue with this appraisal process is another challenge that we're having. Let me just point out. Currently, persons have to be appraised by their supervisors. The teaching council, as is written in the bill, will do appraisal of teachers. And the question...
Hold on, you said no. Is that
I looked at it again because when I heard that statement, I said no. The teaching council has the power to appraise. It has the power to appraise. But you know, when a law is written, you have regulations that set the limits on what is written. So there is a program called the Master Teachers Program, and it selects the best of teachers, and they get special privileges. They get the salary of the vice principal of the school and all of the allowances of the vice principal.
And they do the assessment.
But they remain subject teachers. Every 3 years, the person's designation has to be renewed. That's the only appraisal that the JTC gets into because it is a national standard. And the appraisers are people selected nationally to go out and appraise the master teacher.
Here, Clayton, you want to read something?
I do.
Yes, read
because I want to point to part 2, section 7, M of the Teaching Council Bill. J says, monitor, ensure compliance of registered and licensed teachers and instructions with the conditions of registration, license, and authorization to teach, professional standards, professional appraisals. And M says, conduct professional appraisals. Deal with discipline of registered teachers and licensed teachers, set entry and access requirements. The appraisal of a teacher must be done by whoever supervises that teacher. So while it may not be the intent of the council to conduct these appraisals, it is written in the law that the council will conduct these appraisals. M says conduct appraisals.
Yes, it gives the council the power because the council manages the appraisal of the master teachers when there is renewal the master teacher's designation
Yes.
is renewed every 3 years.
Yes.
So then the regulation now would put the limit on that
Yes.
statement. This is what the council can do. Not to, how would we appraise 25,000 teachers?
I hear you.
So if you need clarity in that statement.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing as we come to the end. I want to say, Clayton Hall, that the approach of the JTA is somewhat surprising to me, because in the 17 years that the Jamaica Teaching Council has been doing work,
Yes.
I don't get the sense that the relationship has proven injurious to the lot of the teacher. Therefore, it's not as if it's an organization that there is there's aggro between the JTA and JTC sufficient for you to be so suspicious of some of the things in the legislation, and you want points to be pellucid, and if they're not pellucid, you're against it because you believe that this JTC exists to stymie the efforts and the professional development of your members. That's the impression I get.
And that is really not the impression you ought to get. The fact of the matter is the Teaching Council now carries out a number of functions, and we have no challenges with those functions. The bill provides the Teaching Council with a different set of rights, responsibility, and roles.
Yes.
We have a serious challenge with the grievance procedures as outlined in the bill.
Yes.
The Teaching Council, under this new bill, would have the right to retry a teacher who would have been acquitted in a court of law or by a board.
We need another hour. Well, that's another line of inquiry that you're opening that we want to go to, but I don't have the time. I have to give you the last word, Dr. Gordon, to ask you if the issues that separate can be resolved quickly, so we don't spend 21 more years at this stage with something that's a bill that really should be an act.
It needs to be enacted because the profession is threatened for the first time in history. It is threatened by the 5th Industrial Revolution. And we need that bill to help us to navigate the environment, and government is behind us because we'll show to Jamaica that we are accountable for what we do. We are human beings working to bring up human beings to live like human beings.
Do you have an appetite for more concessions for the JTA?
Yes, we have always listened to them.
Yes.
And we will listen, and we will look to see where the bill can be clearer so that we don't have these misinterpretations.
Last word.
The significant challenge we have. Grievance procedures is a very big thing.
Yes.
The current bill in its state would see a teacher being terminated by way of non-receipt of salary, even during the interdiction process. There is no statute of limitations on interdiction. Therefore, you could be charged with something, and the process could run for 10 years.
Hear you.
The bill doesn't say when it must stop.
Hear you
the
on that.
current one says 9 months.
Hear you on that.
What is the crime we have committed?
At Stumps, we are undecided. We are undecided in this debate between the JTA and the JTC. But hear what? My task this evening was to give you more information for you to understand, to fill out your frame of reference, so you can determine where does truth lie in this seesaw between the JTA and JTC over a piece of legislation that really, really ought to be enacted and serving the purpose that it was intended to with the stakeholders. Everybody won't be resoundingly happy, but we want everybody to be reasonably comfortable with what is written into law. That's my time. I want to thank Dr. Winsome Gordon, thank Clayton Hall for their contributions, and thank you out there for watching. Fan Central is up next on this Tuesday.
It's a girls' day on Sunrise. Yendi and Tammy are taking over. We begin with a little blessing in Wednesday's service. We're hanging with the kitties of Kingston in Wags, and we'll wrap things up on the couch with Paul Issa.
Why Not Wednesday is powered by Flow. You've never seen a sunrise quite like this.
This is a Child Month tip from CVM Television. You should never be too busy for your children. They are people too. Find the time to give them your undivided attention. This will make them understand how precious they are